Hello friends, I'm George, the nice medic gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. When someone thinks of a cologne fragrance, usually the first thing that comes to mind is a lower price tag, a cheap price tag. When we talk about cheap fragrances, we imagine fragrances that are cloning, famous designer and niche fragrances, but for a fraction of the price. But there are some cases where you actually have to pay quite a bit of money to actually get a good cologne fragrance. So for today, I've prepared a list of 11 such fragrances, 11 cologne fragrances that are good, but at the same time are quite pricey. The first three scents that I'm going to show you in today's video all come from the brand of my perfumes and their higher end of a sub-brand, which is called Arabiyat Prestige. The first one is called Hypnotic Amber, comes packaged in this interesting looking and very high quality feeling bottle. And this fragrance is you can call this a cologne or a fragrance that's been heavily inspired by Creed Aventus, but also carries quite a bit of similarities to Nishane Hashivat. Now, one thing that Arabiyat Prestige, the whole line, has in common is the fact that they use pressurized sprayers, which, as you can see, are of fantastic quality. The scent itself in here, as I said, is inspired by Creed Aventus, but doesn't feel like a straight up cologne, more like a twist. This feels fresher, this feels more floral, greener compared to Creed Aventus, but definitely carries very similar vibes. It's quite pricey, at least around here. This tends to cost about 50-60 euros, which makes it pretty much on par with some designer scents, but you get super high quality in return. I'm still testing this one out, but the quality here seems to be fantastic. The performance also seems to be very good, and as I said, you get a very luxurious experience. The second fragrance, Arabiyat Prestige fragrance that I'm going to show you, again comes from the very same line and bottle wise looks almost spot on identical to the first one, Hypnotic Amber, and this one is called Hypnotic Oud. This fragrance is a clone of Maison Margiela's By the Fireplace, and I can call this one great atomizer as well, as you can see, and this one I can pretty much call a straight up clone, rather than a twist. This carries a very similar scent profile to the original fragrance. You get that woody, a very sweet and smoky scent that just feels super cozy, super nice, perfectly unisex, and is a fantastic fragrance for the cold weather. Performance here is pretty much beast mode. Projection is great. Again, you get super luxurious feeling when you get this fragrance into your collection, and all around this is probably the best clone of By the Fireplace that I've had my hands on. And the third Arabiyat Prestige fragrance that I'm going to feature in today's video comes from a different line that's called Oros, and the fragrance itself is simply called Oros, and this one is a sort of a mix between Bulgari's Tiger and Vibrato from Suspiro. Now, I absolutely love the original DNA. I've said this many times. Again, another pressurized atomizer. And this is like a slightly greener, slightly more woodier take on the Bulgari's Tiger DNA, making it somewhat close to Vibrato as well. Again, super high quality of the scent itself, pressurized atomizer, very luxuriously packaged, very good performance, longevity and projection wise. A very versatile scent that works all year round, very masculine fragrance that I absolutely love. And so far Oros has been very impressive. The next fragrance that I'm going to show you comes from the brand of Haramain, and it's very similar to the previous one, to Oros. It's called Junon Oud, and this again is carries very similar scent to to Bulgari's Tiger, but this one actually is cloning Suspiro Vibrato. And again, it's a super high quality clone of Vibrato. Very similar scent profile to Tiger, but this just feels a little bit more woody, a little bit more serious, slightly darker compared to Tiger itself, but works pretty much in the same scenarios that you would wear Tiger. Vibrato is again a niche fragrance that tends to be quite expensive, and Junon Oud is a great clone of Vibrato itself, but again it's a bit more on the pricey side. At least around here in Europe this costs about 50 euros, and it comes in a 75 ml bottle size, I think, so that makes it even a little bit more pricey, but still on its own it's a great scent, and also is a great clone of Vibrato. The next few scents that I'm going to show you all come from the brand of Fragrance World and their sub-brand French Avenue, again more of a high-end line of fragrances, and the first one is called Sultry Ouds, and this one is heavily inspired by Nishane Shem. Also is a bit similar to something like Haltane from Parfums de Marly. It's a very Very interesting scent that carries that has quite a lot of green and floral notes. There's some cardamom, there's a rose note in here. You know, you get quite a strong leather note, especially on the dry down. You get some ambery sweetness, a very grown up, quite dark and sophisticated scent, very dressed up fragrance. Again, so far from my testing, seems to be very strong when it comes to both performance, you know, longevity on skin and projection. Comes very luxuriously packaged, but again, a little bit more on the pricey side. This costs about 50 euros here in Europe, and you only get 80 milliliters as a bottle size. The next French Avenue fragrance featured today will be Lumiere Garçon. Comes in a very you know, interesting and unique looking bottle, and this fragrance is cloning Dolce & Gabbana The One Luminous Night, and actually as a clone it's very nice. Very similar to the original fragrance. You get that you know, the Dolce & Gabbana DNA, the One DNA that has a strong Middle Eastern vibe. You get a lot of ambery sweetness with this one, a lot of date sweetness with this one. You get quite a bit of spiciness from a black pepper note, some greenness, quite a bit of woodsy notes on the dry down, and also it's quite smoky. Very nicely done clone of Luminous Night. Performance so far from my testing seems to be very good. Projection very good. Comes interestingly quite luxuriously packaged, and again probably the only con about this fragrance is the fact that it's a bit more pricey. Again, tends to cost about 50 euros here in Europe. And one more French Avenue fragrance that I'm going to show you right now is called The Shadow, and this one is from the niche line of French Avenue. This fragrance is cloning Louis Vuitton's Ombre Nomade, and it's one of the two best clones of Ombre Nomade that I've tried. And the next fragrance that I'm going to show you is the other great clone of Ombre Nomade that I have in my collection. Very similar to the original fragrance, another fragrance that carries very strong Middle Eastern vibes. You get lots of leather, agar oud, raspberry, ambery sweetness, a rose note in here. Very good performer, very strong fragrance with sort of a huge projection as well, very long lasting, comes really nicely packaged again, but again pretty pricey. This costs 50 euros at least from where I got it, and you only get 60 milliliter as a bottle size, which makes it even more pricey when you count, you know, the price per milliliter ratio. And the next Ombre Nomade clone that I'm going to show you in today's video, which is very good but tends to be very pricey and also quite hard to find, comes from the brand of Oros, which is a sub-brand of Armaf in a way. It comes from the same parent company of Sterling Perfumes, and the fragrance itself is called Oros Pure Leather Gold. And you know, this thing has always looked to me like an old school microphone for some reason, you know, the bottle design. You actually supposedly get a real Swarovski crystal in the cap of this fragrance. This tends to cost about 65-70 euros here in Europe. Can be pretty hard to find, but in my opinion this is the best clone of Ombre Nomade that you can actually get. Gets very close to the original fragrance scent wise, especially in the air. Another beast mode performing scent, both when it comes to longevity and projection, as again comes nicely packaged all around. Very good. The only con of this fragrance, of course, being its price tag. And to end up the video, I'm going to go through 3 Parfum de Marly Layton clones, 2 of them being the regular Layton, cloning the regular Layton, and the last one cloning Layton Xclusif. The first Layton clone, which is pretty good, in fact probably my most favorite at the current time Layton clone, but also quite pricey, will be Dusk from the Woods collection. And at least around here this costs about 75 euros, which makes it dangerously close to what you can get for, you know, what you have to pay for the original fragrance. It comes very nicely packaged. to get a magnetic cap, something that I really always liked. The scent in here is very nice. It's very nicely blended. You know, very similar to the original fragrance, maybe slightly sweeter, slightly more fruity, making it even more wearable compared to the original scent. All around the quality here is top notch, you know, accounting everything, packaging, bottle design, scent quality, everything. The only problem with this fragrance, again, apart from the high price tag, is the fact that this is not the best performer in the world. Not a weak fragrance by any means. I still get about 8 hours of performance out of it, but again, at that price point, people should expect maybe a little bit better performance. And my second Layton clone that is great but also pricey at the same time comes from Orientica, which a brand called Orientica, which is, you can think of it as a sister brand to Haramain, and the fragrance itself is called Xclusif Oud Bleu. It's an extrait de perfume concentration, comes really nicely packaged, very high quality of the bottle and the whole presentation. The scent is absolutely fantastic, clone of Layton, feels maybe a little bit more spicy in the opening, other than that super close to Layton, lasts longer than Layton, and again probably the only con of this fragrance, the only problem about this fragrance is the price tag. The bottle size here is 60 milliliters, but still this costs about 65-70 euros, which again makes it dangerously close price-wise to the original fragrance. So keep that in mind. But as a scent on its own and as a performer, again, I think it's even better than Layton performance-wise. And the last fragrance that I'm going to feature in today's video will be cloning Layton Xclusif. It again comes from the brand of French Avenue and Fragrance World, and it's called Mirage Absolu. And actually this is very nicely done. Another great clone from Fragrance World and French Avenue. Super close to the original fragrance. You get that a little bit more niche smelling, you know, take on the Layton DNA that has a little bit more darkness to it, a little bit more woody, you know, agar oud and stuff like that. The quality here is absolutely top notch. Performance is great, projection is great. Again, another fragrance that comes really luxuriously packaged, but again with one big problem in my opinion, and that's the price. At least around here this costs about 50 euros, so it's not the most expensive fragrance featured in today's video, but still in my opinier it's more on the pricier side. And so guys, in today's video I showed you a total of 11 clone fragrances that are absolutely fantastic, but at the same time tend to be quite expensive. I hope that you found this video interesting or entertaining. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in the next one. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.